Hi, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and today I'm going to be doing a look at and review of the Revelations Tarot by Zach Wong. Now, this is a tarot deck that incorporates reversals right into the images itself. So, for example, here's the back of the card, which is quite stunning. It's like purples and black, and I quite love the backing. If you look, so here's the Fool card. As you can see, here we have the Fool. You're generally going to be looking at the top part of the card, except for the Hanged Man. And you can see the traditional image would be at the top. And then when you reverse it, you have another image that reflects the actual reversed meaning of the card. Now, so it's quite interesting. So now, I do not incorporate physical reversals in my when I read tarot cards. I do incorporate reversals, or what I like to call the shadow aspect or the flip aspect of the cards. I incorporate it through the positions that it's on. So let's say if a positive card shows up, or any card shows up in a weakness spot, then I might be looking at the shadow aspect of the card. Also what cards are around it, what is the question, the very nature of certain questions make certain cards in shadow. And certainly just intuitional hits. So I do incorporate the shadow parts of cards. I just don't have them physically flipped and reversed. And let me just say that that would have kept me from getting this particular deck, because I would have thought, well, that's not really something that's going to be of any use to me. But I would say don't let that be the case if you're interested in the deck. Maha, who has a YouTube channel here on YouTube. I'll put a link to in the description box below. She had left a comment on one of my videos saying, have you ever heard of the Revelations Tarot? And I said, yes, I'd heard of it. It just wasn't something that was on my wish list necessarily. And she said, well, she had it, and for whatever reason, it didn't resonate with her, and that she'd be happy to pass it on to me. And I was like, oh, I would love to take a look at it. That's fantastic. And I really would never have bought this deck otherwise. So I'm quite glad. Thank you very much, Maha, because it's been quite interesting working with this and really looking at this deck. And as I've been reading with it, I have not flip-flopped them. It's just me. I can't. It bothers me to flip-flop because I just don't do it. So I was finding that was sort of impeding me. So I ended up just keeping them upright, but it keeps the shadow aspect at the forefront. It keeps me looking at the shadow aspect and incorporating that in a way that was quite interesting. I really enjoyed reading with this, which I'll get to more as we go. But I would never have tried this deck if Maha hadn't sent it to me. So that's one of those kind of fortuitous things. So my point being that if you don't, like me, don't use physical reversals, and you've kind of discounted this deck because of that, I wouldn't let that be a reason not to get the deck. You can, shuffle it the way you normally do, but it does give you that visual representation of both sides of the cards. So I did want to make sure I pointed that out. So if the artwork, I'm going to switch it and you can be able to see things much more clearly. But if the artwork and the art style and the style of the card appeals to you, but you don't use reversals, don't let that stop you. I think you'll still get a lot of use out of it without even flip-flopping them around. I did also want to point out that there is a tarot app for this. By the Fool's Dog. The coloring it's a very rich jade green, and yeah, it's not going to show up screen to screen. But this is by the Fool's Dog company, which I do love their tarot apps. And so it does have, the book in it, and it obviously has all, you can explore the cards and, kind of go through all the cards. I wonder if I turn the lightness down. That's a little bit better. So then you can go ahead and explore the cards. You can touch it, flip it over. see the reversal. So then you can see the upright and the reversed meaning, and then the full text from the book. So if this is something you're kind of curious about after you see this video, you can, I want to say it was $3.99. Most of their apps are $3.99. So that's a way that you can look at it further and mess around with it before you buy the deck. Or if it's just something you're interested in terms of studying, which I have read reviews and seen where people didn't necessarily use it for doing card readings, but they wanted to use it as a study aid for really getting in and studying reversals, then the app might be a good option for you as well. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. I think if that's everything I wanted to say. I think that's all I needed to say before we'll go ahead and switch over so that you can see the cards up front. I obviously don't have the box because I didn't purchase this. It was gifted to me. So I don't have the box for this. I'm assuming the box is at least as big as the guidebook, clearly. And I wasn't expecting this guidebook, so that was quite an unexpected surprise. It's 199 pages. We'll take a look at it when we swap, but I'm not sure, you know, what the quality of the box was or anything like that. But be that as it may, let's switch over and take a look at these very interesting cards. Okay, so here we have, let me move the cards aside for a minute. They're kind of slippy. Okay, so here we have the Revelations Tarot Companion by, the deck in the book is by Zach Wong. This deck is by Llewellyn, and let's see. The copyright, well, first edition, 2005 would, I guess, be when it was originally released. So it's not a new deck, and I have definitely seen it floating around. I love how they put one of the cards I don't particularly like right on the front of the cover, because it has two things wrong with it. It has a sun with a face in it, which I'm not always fond of, and then it has 4 creepy babies instead of just 2. But, you know, what are you going to do? Okay, so, and I didn't say that in my little introduction, but I did when a couple weeks ago. It's been about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Since it'll be about 2 weeks, I think, since I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and I had stopped on the way back, and I had packages in my post office box, and I have an unboxing of this particular deck. So I'll put a link to that video in the description box below, because I had really wanted to open it. But I didn't do a full review or walkthrough because this wasn't just a deck that was Rider-Waite Smith base, where I could just look through and do a show because the cards are basically the same. With this, I did want to look at the guidebook and stuff and work with it a little bit, since it was a little bit of a different concept first. So that's why I kind of wanted to wait for this. So the guidebook, I might have already said, the guidebook is 199 pages, and it has a preface where he kind of explains, Zach Wong, it kind of explains that he, was always looking for the perfect deck and finally decided to just make one. I wish I was so artistically inclined that I could just randomly decide I was going to make a tarot deck, but whatever. More power to him, because we get a deck, so he started to create this particular deck. So then it gives kind of some information about the major arcana and just sort of the idea about the journey of the Fool. He does also make note in this particular section that the style is supposed to be similar to a look of stained glass, and that understanding that there are iconic images that represent a lesson to be learned or something to be studied or a situation. And so each of the characters in the major arcanas faces kind of look like they're broken up. I believe there's actually, no, It's not in the minor, but in the major arcana, they're kind of looking broken to let us know that they're just a symbol. They just represent a human relation, sort of like he talks about how it's kind of like a god who stand in human form. So these are bigger issues that are kind of being pulled down onto the human level, and that sort of mask type looking face is to remind us that this is a bigger issue than what might come up in the minor arcana. So we have that. And then in the actual section, we have a small black and white representation of the card itself, the name of the card, and then there's sort of a little sort of snippet, like for the Fool. He is a free spirit without worry and full of optimism while embarking on a new journey. He sees the world with fresh new eyes. His views are unconventional. And then he goes into a little bit more, any kind of a little bit more about it, and it generally looks about what it symbolizes, and then it even breaks it down in each of the cards into what it would represent, if it represents an individual, what it might mean, and then in terms of if it was a situational representation, what it might mean. So it has that. Then it has the reversed meaning. So the little snippet for the reverse meaning for the Fool would be, he's cautious before he leaps, for he worries about the risks involved. He ponders his movements and takes things slowly. And then the same thing, if it represents an individual, and if it's a situation, it would be this. And then I really like this section that is next on here, which is the images and symbolism. So let's just take the Fool because we're talking about the Fool. So here we have the card in its upright form. And for the most part, other than I believe the Hanged Man, you're going to be looking at the top half, the part that's up. So the top half, it will give us the symbols here. So the butterfly, so we see the butterfly right here. The butterfly represents the chasing of the childlike dream. The baby, sorry about my phone. The baby in the rose symbolizes the innocence of the beginning of the journey. The mountains in the background are symbols of the height of knowledge to which the figure on this card has yet to climb. In the reverse, the moon, so now we have a moon here, represents the subconscious, which is linked to intuition and the unknown. The flying people that are down here and floating people in the background represent caution thrown to the wind, a loss of control, and uncertainty. And then instead of mountains, we sort of have a canyon-looking background, which represents the erosions of the mind through time and doubt. So it really goes through all, and I love that, because if you're gonna, sometimes you don't know what we see these kind of random people falling. Well, all right, yes, I can get my own intuitional hits off of it, but it's interesting at first when you first start with the deck to at least see what was in the artist's mind for all the symbols. And so he goes through that, and I think that particular aspect is fantastic of this deck. And so we obviously go through along the major so we obviously go through all of the major arcana that way. And then we get to the minor arcana. It kind of goes through how the minor arcana is, and then it does give us all the numbers as well. And I quite like it when decks, guidebooks do this, in case this is somebody's first deck, which it actually might be a good one for that because you have the reversals built in. It gives you this idea of understanding how the numbers play into the situation. So I really like that. That they add that kind of thing in. And then we go to the minors, where again we have a small black and white image, the name, the snippet with the upright meaning, the reversed meaning, the reversed meaning, and then again the images and symbols that are on each of the minor arcana. So I really like that. I think that is fantastic. I think I was thinking, why do I have stickies on the side? I was going through and doing like the swords and things like that, but I didn't finish. Must have got sidetracked. Anyway, so I quite like that aspect. And then after you go through all the cards, you go through a section of spreads. So you have, you know, past, present, and future. You have the 4 elements, you know, where it shows the 4 elements spread here. And it actually ties in, which I kind of thought was interesting too, excuse me. It ties in the directions. So north being fire, east being air and thought, south being earth and sensations, and west being water and feelings. So I liked that. There's a 7 days spread. There was a horoscope spread, which is kind of how I do spread also, although mine starts a little bit differently, but goes through the 12 signs. Mine are more to do with the houses than the signs. But so they have an astrological spread there, so that's what it's got. And then it goes into sort of, you know, advertisement for other decks. So that is the guidebook. But again, I think this is really helpful. You know, I'm the kind of person who gives the guidebook a really good read one time round, and then it's just there for reference if I particularly want to look a certain card up. So I think this is plenty of information. I really, really love this individual very detailed about each of the symbol, why he put specific things in there, because it lets you know, A, that the deck was created with very specific intention. He didn't just, you know, randomly throw things in for no reason. There was specific reasons for everything. And so given that I know that, because he's gone to so much trouble to line them all out, then I'm going to really pay attention to those details in this deck because I am aware of that. And then if something really does jump out at me, I'm able to go back and find out exactly what was behind that particular symbol. Even though, again, you know, you don't need to do that. It can just hit something for you. I love to be able to see what, even if I don't use it, I do love to have that detail of the symbols there. So that is a look at the guidebook. So I was quite happy with this guidebook. Along with that, there are 2 cards that came with the deck. One had the 7-day spread. This I will say, this spread it didn't really do anything for me because it was like based off the days of the week, but Monday is the past, Tuesday is the present, Wednesday's hidden influences. You know, to me this has absolutely nothing to do with the days of the week, because what if you're on Monday? Monday's not the past. You know, to me it had nothing whatsoever to do with the days of the week, and so why not just make these the positions and leave the days of the week out of it? So I will say that about that particular spread. And then here we have the horoscope spread. So there were 2 sort of cards with those on it, but those are both also in the book itself. Okay, so let me show you the backs real close. So here we have the backs of the cards, which I think are stunning. I love this little thing here in the middle, and the swirling energy. It's definitely reversible, which it certainly should be for this deck. And cardstock wise, it's typical Llewellyn. It feels like Tarot of the Hidden Realms, same size as Tarot of the Hidden Realms. It's just that typical Llewellyn card stock, which I like. They do chip. Yeah, you know, they're not exactly long lasting, but I don't mind my cards getting worn in. And I do like to rifle shuffle with this style card. So not great, but certainly usable. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. So here we have, we looked at the full card. So as I said, we have, we're always kind of looking at the top, and then when we swap, you know what, this might be easier to just leave these down here and pick them up, I think. So then when we swap, we get a little bit of a different image than the other. So I'm going to try to go through these a little quicker just so I can flip them all. Here we have the Magician along the top, and then here we have the Magician reversed. Here we have the High Priestess, and you can see what he's talking about, how they almost, their faces don't look human. They are definitely masked, even when you reverse it, you get much more of a darker sense of the High Priestess here. But you can just see the faces are very stained glass and very much kind of broken up. So we definitely just get that reminder that this is, we're not looking at somebody that's human. This is a representation of something bigger in the major arcana. So here we have the Empress in abundance, and then we have the Empress, who's, it's raining, and she's kind of cover herself over with the cloak, and she's kind of definitely not, and no, Isabel, definitely not in the same, you know, kind of feel that you get with that card, or with the upright. So here we have the Emperor, again, our typical Emperor with the Ankh in his hand, looking very in control. And then when you flip it upside down, he has puppet strings. And he's become not the person in control, but a person who's the puppet. Here we have the Hierophant. Now again, they're not all negative, because remember, not all shadow aspects of cards are necessarily that it's, I mean, everybody's different how they read reversals. Some people do it just the exact opposite of what it was. Some people do it, I guess, I don't do reversals, so I don't know. No, you know, some people do it, it's the exact opposite of the card, not necessarily that it's negative, it's just the opposite. So if you look at this, we have sort of the very structured religion aspect, and when you flip it upside down, you have him looking much more relaxed, more like you know, sage, somebody who's kind of going his own way about things. And so we have, it's not that it's a negative aspect, it's just reversed from the very structured religious aspect or traditions of the upright. So here we have the Lover, same thing with the Lovers. Here we have the very, you know, the very traditional Rider Waite. We have the angels, we have the two lovers in that sort of mental, spiritual union. And then when we flip it upside down, we have a very physical union that's going on. And it's not that this is a negative thing, it's just that that's that physical side of passion, of love. Here we have the Chariot, and then when you flip it upside down, we have somebody that's definitely much more, you know, she's very calm, or he, whatever it might be, very calm, not needing to really hold on to the reins, and is going about, actually it's underwater, it looks like seahorses. And then when you flip it upside down, you have somebody driving much more aggressive, hanging on to the reins. The energy is quite different. I love the Strength card. Here we have the tip again, typical Strength. We even have this beautiful stained glass right here. When we flip it upside down, we have her being sorry. You know, there's a sorrow there, and there's a door closed on the stained glass, closing off the light. So quite powerful there. Here we have the Hermit. Typical Hermit is very Rider-Waite-Smith based on the top parts, or on the uprights. We even have the 5-pointed star, or the 6-pointed star. Yeah, 6-pointed on this. Typical. And then here we see much more of a fleeing. So here the Hermit is going off, sort of, you know, as the typical Hermit would be. And this one, it's more of an escapism, leaving. It's kind of running away. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune, where we have positive, happy things on good fortune, and kind of more of a negative, bad fortune on the bottom side. Here we have Justice, and if you look at the scales themselves here, we can see here these set of scales are even, and then when we flip it, this is out of balance. So here now it's out of balance, so I quite liked that. So Sorry, I'm really trying to, because it's kind of double each card. Here we have the Hanged Man. Now on the Hanged Man, we're looking at the bottom aspect because obviously he's hanging. So here we have the typical Rider-Waite-Smith with the leg behind it that we have here. And then when we flip it, we have a very different look at the Hanged Man. Is actually losing things, and we have some not happy people back here. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a much different vibe to that. I love the Death card. So here we have Kali, that idea of creative destruction, but when we flip it, we have the new beginnings of the baby. Oh, that's fantastic. This is one of my favorite Death cards. I think this is amazing. Here we have Temperance. Typical Temperance, although she's not really pouring things, but she's mixing stuff here. We can see how things are spiraling up here, and it's very combined the way it should be. And when we do this, things are not quite working out. So here we have Temperance. Here we have the Devil. I'm not overly fond of the Devil card, although when you actually read it, the meaning of it, we do have that sense of materialism that we can have with, and we can kind of see almost look like stacked money. We have people bound here. The only issue I mostly have with this is that I like my Devil cards to show people who are bound by themselves that could easily just walk away. It's kind of up to them. And these people look pretty bound to the wheel. And then flipped, we have this. Let's just take a look at this one. This is, again, I'm pretty picky about my Devil cards. So this is definitely, sorry, let me find it. This is definitely not my favorite version of the Devil card at all. But you can read it with anything. You can kind of go off on your own meaning, and no matter what. So here we have Upright. Material things, pleasures, lust, desire drive him. And then when you flip it, we have him abusing his power. He abuses his power. He's trapped by the lure of money. He only cares for the fulfillment of his own desires. So that, actually, the reverse side, I can definitely see that. There's that sense of being abusing or over. It's about taking something that's okay in moderation, but it's gone too far. My problem is that the Upright one, to me, doesn't really look all that much better. And again, my issue is that they don't look like they can unbind themselves. But that's one card. You're going to have those cards. Then we have the Tower card, which I think is quite interesting because we have the destruction, but things are still rather stable, again, at the bottom, as we see. Whereas with the Tower reverse, we actually have everything sort of coming apart. So there is none of that base stability that's there. So that's quite interesting, I thought. Here we have the Star card, looking lovely, and there's her pots that she's pouring. And then we flip it, and this one, let me look at this one too. I think I quite liked, oops, I just went past it. Or I thought it was interesting. So we have the regular Star. She oozes with inner and outer hope and balance. She embodies the giver of hope in our lives. When you reverse it, she turns her back. So she's turning her back on the world. She has lost all hope. She cannot give what she does not have within herself. So here she has stuff to give, which we can see her pouring it out. Here she doesn't have anything to give. So I thought that was quite poignant. Here we have the Moon card. We have lots of fairies, and here we have the fish there. Then when we flip it, things are pretty chaotic. The waters are crazy. You know, there's a storm going on. We've got mer people being thrown about. Definitely a different moon flipped. The Sun, we have pretty much, no, they look kind of despondent there. So yeah, we definitely have more of the reversed meaning. So here's the Upright. And then if you look at the creepy babies on this way, they're not quite so happy creepy babies. Here we have Judgment, again, typical, very Rider-Waite-Smith base this deck is. So, I mean, in that regard, again, this would be a good deck. If you like the artwork, this would be a good deck for a first deck in it even, because you can really work with the reversals and the uprights. It stays very much traditional. So we have the angel kind of calling, and he's kind of coming up. And then when you flip it over, it looks quite similar, except for that his posture, he's not raising his hands up. So that's interesting. Isabel. Here we have then the last of the major arcana. We have the World card, which generally you'll see one figure that's androgynous, and so we have what looks to me to be a male on the top and a female on the bottom, so maybe the energies, but it's quite similar either way. So that's the major arcana. Now let me split these off, because if you've watched my videos, you know I like to do that. So there is the wands and the, oops, I think I mixed those up. The swords and the cups and the pentacles. Now you'll be able to see one of my problems with this deck, and this is not a major problem, but this is just one of the things, as I find the things that I really like about decks. I really like suits to be quite cohesive within their suits, and they are kind of. See, because you can see with the wands, they're very fiery based. And then we'll get some purpley ones. But it still looks fairly cohesive, but except for some random, if that shows up in a reading, except for that I see the figures, but the general coloration isn't going to pop out as being wands, because the rest of them are so vibrantly oranges and reds that these purpley ones aren't going to pop out just in terms of scanning. And then other ones, so this one looks like it's purples and blues, but it's actually all different colors. This one to me is not cohesive at all in terms of color. This is what I'm talking about. The cups, kind of, but again, the purple is an overriding color in all the suits, but you just don't have that cohesive color going on, which I do like. It's not necessary. Not all decks have it, so this isn't like, oh, this is the only deck like that. Here again, we have greens and golds, and then random purples, purples and blues. So I prefer, that they would hold a little bit more to their deck suit colors as a more cohesive suit thing, but that's personal preference. And again, not all decks have that sort of suit color dominance, but it's something I particularly like. But in terms of the aces, I think these stand out quite beautifully as aces. They are obviously not reversible aces. We have the wind wand with the flame on top. These are not really reversed. These aren't meant to be reversed at all. Although the cup does kind of show water, kind of looks like it's falling out. But for the most part, these really don't, the aces don't change by being reversible. So the wands have sort of these metallic, well, they all have this sort of future. When you get into the suits, there's almost a futuristic look to the cards. So here we have the Ace of Wands. Here we have the two, and you'll see with the faces on these, although some of them are future looking, so it's hard to tell, they don't have the same masks as the other one. So here we have the Two of Wands with the, being the energy being opened, and here we have the energy being closed. That's what I see right away anyways. Here we have the Three of Wands. It's a different energy. This one, not quite entirely sure, and not much of a difference flipping. I read through all the major arcana, but I haven't read through all the minor arcana. Here we have the Five of Wands. We heard it seems more competitive, and then when you flip it over, there's much more of an angry energy going on. Here we have the Six of Wands. You know, he's riding on the horse, kind of looking all conquering hero. And here we have a much more superhero looking like guy. I'm not sure about this particular one. You know, saying here we have, see, they're very kind of futuristic. Seven of Wands. He looks quite, you know, confused on that side. Not sure of himself. Okay, here we have the Eight of Wands. Yeah, I'm not hugely fond of the figures. Actually, the whole deck. They're just kind of, some of them are these sort of futuristic, almost like, I just think of superheroes, which I guess isn't a bad thing because I do like comics and I do like Avengers and all that kind of thing. So it's not that I dislike, but I guess because we have these things and then we have, see, some of them are like that and then some of them are more like, this is much more a normal looking human. See, there we have more of a normal looking humans. So it's kind of a mix. I guess there's a little bit, for me, a little bit of inconsistency, both in the color and just in the feel of the particular suit. Here we have the Nine of Wands. Here we have the Ten of Wands. And this one, let's just look it up because I'm not really seeing the Ten of Wands in this particular, you know, that sort of heaviness, I guess, of the wands. So I'm curious. So let's see, it says, he bears the burden of 10 wands ambitiously. He exerts immense control over them with power from within. Well, I guess this is one of those, actually, that we're looking at the bottom. See, I keep looking at the top. For the most part, you do look at the top, but this one is like the Hanged Man, where you're really looking at the bottom. See, he's holding it, he's got it just bent. So that actually works better for me. Now, when you flip it over, it says he realizes he's taken on too much and the wands break out of formation. See how they're starting to fall? Okay, so that makes more sense to me. So again, like I said, a lot of this I think is one of those decks that you really do need to go. And I did like read through the book and everything, and I've worked with it a bit, but I didn't go through all of the minor arcana yet. So I can definitely see this being one, if you're reading with it, to have the book with you until you really get comfortable with it. So here we have the Page. Because I actually quite like that card. Once I realized what was going on, I quite liked it. Here we have the Knight. Here we have the Queen of Wands. I quite like this one. You know, she just looks kind of peaceful and queenly. And then here she looks a little bit more devious. And we've got chained, you know, this guy's like chained up to these blocks. It's very different energy to it when you flip it. And then the King, same thing here, there's different energy. So I do see a lot of energy changes. I'm trying to go quick because I know, I mean, basically this is like double the cards. So here we have the Swords. I do quite like this one. Here we have the Two of Swords balancing, but when you flip it, it looks much less sure of her self or himself. I mean, they're kind of neutral. I also like the Three of Swords. See the face there. I like this one too, the Four of Swords. We have him sort of resting comfortably, but then when you flip it over, he's kind of resting, but he's been injured, so it's much more of a forced rest because of having been injured. Here we have the Five of Swords, and then reversed. I like this one as well. The Six of Swords in the boat, kind of press it going out, and then when you flip it, he is not in the boat, which is not a good position to be in. But But see how the colors really move from these dark blues, which I would love the whole sword suit to be like that. And then all of a sudden we have a very fiery wand energy coloration. So that, and again, like I said, not all tarot decks have colored matching suits. I just personally like it. I love, love, love this card. So here we have the Eight of Swords, and she's all bound up. We've got the sword. She's blindfolded, and when it's reversed, her blindfold is off. Her hands are out of the bindings, and even the swords on her back look much more warrior-like than causing her any problems. Here we have the Nine of Swords. You know, she looks distressed, and oh my goodness, and then he's kind of pushing aside and getting through it. This one I don't see much of a difference between either side, but it's pretty cool looking. The Page of Swords, the Knight of Swords, the Queen of Swords, very balanced here with the sword. Here she's leaning on it a little bit more and looks more distressed. The King of Swords looks kind of like a mer person, but he's got legs. So that's the swords. Then we have the cups. I quite like this. Here we have the Two of Cups looking all, you know, unified and happy, and then they're fighting and got their backs turned to each other. The Three of Cups is the same no matter what. We have that sense of being together no matter what. So I like that. Four of Cups, quite dissatisfied, and then she's quite happy and content on that side. We have the Five of Cups. We actually have two different sexes here. But here we have Three of the Cups, and then that are over, and then Two is this is a person who's paying attention to what she has versus somebody paying attention to what he doesn't have. Here we have the Six of Cups. He's kind of, sleeping and having, happy dreams. And this one, he's kind of sleeping and not having good dreams. Here we have the Seven of Cups, kind of reaching for, what he might want out of there. And this one just seems more, it's a different energy to it. Which is a lot of what I've seen with these, that a lot of times, it's not exactly an opposite, but there is like a very different energetic feel to the reversal, which is how it should be. Here we have the Eight of Cups, the Nine of Cups. Again, these are pretty much all mer people. The Ten of Cups I quite like because we have this here, and then we have sort of this union in the middle. But here they're kind of separated. Again, they're not looking at each other. They don't look like they're fighting like the other one, but they're not really looking at each other. Here we have the Page of Cups, the Knight of Cups. I think this is quite lovely. This is on the front of the app. And here we have the King of Cups. And then we have the Pentacles. These have at least they have hair and stuff, but they're like very metallic looking people. So here we can see they're juggling very well, balancing, and here they're all out of whack and they're not balanced. Here we have the Three of Pentacles working industriously and not so much. Four of Pentacles definitely holding on, and this one not so enjoying the money or resources. The Five of Pentacles, and then the six, and then the reversed. But you can see how the colors really change, right? We go from this very goldy, pentacly feel, and then bam, we have this purple one. So I definitely don't feel like you can rely on colors so much with this particular deck. So that's something to be aware of. I know I keep saying that, but that's the one thing that I will say that it kind of I just don't like that. I like a little bit more consistency throughout the suits. Even in the types of people, you know, we have kind of, I mean, they're all kind of futuristic looking things, but they kind of swap back and forth of types of bodies. Seven of Pentacles and reversed. Here we have the Eight of Pentacles. We can see the back of him. And here it's kind of a different, and he's working, but it's a little bit different. They both look like they're industrious, just in a different way. Here's the Nine of Pentacles. This is actually quite a lovely card. And then you reverse it. Here we have the Ten of Pentacles. So we have the two and hold, kind of touching with him. And here we actually just have him and the Pentacles. So it's kind of different feel there. The Page of Pentacles. Kind of opened up, or the Knight of Pentacles, much more sorrowful there. The Queen of Pentacles, and the King of Pentacles. So there we have all of the suits. Now I'm going to, I think I have these all in the right way. I'm going to shuffle them up in the correct way real quick. They shuffle really nicely. I mean, these are Llewellyn. Again, I don't think the Llewellyn cards are always the best card stock in terms of longevity. But in terms, if you like to rifle shuffle like I do, they do, Llewellyn, I do really love the shuffle of Llewellyn cards. You just know that they probably are going to get chippy and have to accept that sort of worn look. I was just going to lay a couple out here so you could see. Let's see, even here at the Pentacles, we have, actually, because I didn't shuffle them very well, we have lots of Pentacles, but we have some greens, some more wandy energy, then we have the gold's fine. You know, the gold and the green is fine, but even now I would like that to be more green. And then we have this one. So look at, these are, well, that's a wand. Okay, so erase that. We have the Pentacles, even looking at these Pentacles. This one, you know, these all kind of go, but then we have this random Pentacle there that's quite, to me, jarring. But again, not all of my decks are color specific, but generally there is, I will say with most of my decks, there generally is a feel to the suits that's very cohesive that I'm not necessarily feeling with this deck. Although, you know, in all fairness, I also haven't worked with this deck very much. I mean, I've worked with it, but you know, it's a short time that I've actually worked with it. Just wanted to see a few of the, so here we have the wands. So those really do pop, but then there are other wands ones that don't pop. So these are all like this. So now what I'm going to do real quick is flip-flop them. I guess this is how people do it. Let's see. Yeah. See, I don't even, like, oh, I don't even know how you get that in because I don't do reversals. And I would say, I guess, grab them again and flip-flop one just to have some randomness. I guess that's how, kind of how I feel like, because after a while you're going to have, you know, your reverses, whatever's reversed is going to be reversed. And so I feel like you're going to get specific reversals. I'm not sure. I guess if I did reversals all the time, I probably like to do the swishy one. But that can get tedious. So I just want to see if we get. So there we have the two reversed. Now watch, I'll hardly get any reverses. The Temperance reversed. And the Emperor reversed. So see, we go off of, you know, these what's kind of along the top, except for those couple exceptions. Oops, which you probably can't even see. Of course, this is very blown out with light. I switched light bulbs for my main light, and I just can't quite get it down correctly. I did much better with the other ones, but you get an idea of this. So this has been a look at the Revelations Tarot by, again, Zach Wong. I actually quite am enjoying this deck. I don't know that it would ever become sort of a main deck of mine. Obviously this is not a deck that was on my list to get. Maha was just so sweet to have sent it to me. And I'm so glad that she did, because it actually has been very interesting to work with and to look at. I really like it for cards of the day, because then it does really remind you to kind of tap into both energies, because you got to remember that sometimes, you know, a deck's shadow side is a bright shadow side. I really like that. Which was the Druid Craft? Oh, no, I'm not going to remember. When I was doing the Moon card, it talked about how the shadow self was in the foreground, and when you went through the gates, then you got to the bright shadow, those more positive aspects that are underneath. And so sometimes, you know, a card's reversal is a bright shadow. So I do like that the card reminds you, even if you're using them all upright like I've been doing, I'm still, if it's in the position that's in the shadow, I have that other aspect there. And if it's just a card of the day, I'm making sure to kind of think about both aspects and how they might fit into the situation, or and just to keep in mind throughout the day. So I really do appreciate this. Now, I have seen this deck trimmed. Yeah. Now, I will say, let's see, they do have, which I guess I did not point out, because you can't always see them very clearly, but they do have a thin border around each of the suit cards. I guess the cups are more blue, the swords are purple, the wands are sort of an orange color, and the pentacles are green. So you do have that, but I will say it doesn't stand out brightly, except for down here in the bottom with the name of the card. So that would be something to keep in mind for skimming. I don't think that really makes up for the deck, the suit's colorations not being unified, but that is there. I am not going to, at the moment, trim these. But I have seen them trimmed, and they actually are quite lovely, because, you know, this is up in here. But it's probably going to be very difficult to, you almost have to cut around the corners, and that's something I might mess around with one of these to see if my little corner rounder would make that correctly, because I have seen them and they are quite gorgeous. Again, you can just tell because these cards are so beautifully jewel toned and gorgeous bright colors that would just even pop more. But I don't find these borders to be horrible. But I am tempted by it just because I saw somebody else's that was quite gorgeous, and it obviously wouldn't mess with the back at all. So that's possible. So anyways, now I'm just starting to ramble. I don't, it's probably it is the first time I've ever been gifted a deck. It's kind of fun to go through a deck that you really didn't pick out yourself, you know, something that you wouldn't maybe normally pick, because it gives you that opportunity to explore a deck that maybe you would never have picked. And I have learned quite a bit about it. And again, like I said, I really do love the symbolism. So I really do plan on, you know, when I use this, I do take a look in the book so I really can start to get to know it. I don't imagine you really using this for clients. because I don't have that sort of, at least yet, I don't really have that, where some decks I feel like I can right away use it with a client, but I wouldn't, for me this feels like it would kind of be distracting. The other side of the image might be more distracting. Depending on how I viewed the card. I don't know. I guess my feeling right now for this deck is that it would not be a deck that I would use for clients, which I have decks like that. I absolutely love the Steampunk Tarot, but I don't tend to use it with clients. There are some decks I feel like that are too specific, or I don't know. There's certain decks that for me just don't resonate as good client working decks, and so I don't have that feel for this one that I would pull this out for a client, but I am enjoying using it, and I've enjoyed working with this deck, even though, like I said, it's not one that I really probably would never have bought it myself, but I've enjoyed checking it out. And as I said before, just one more before I leave, if this is a deck that you do like the images for, or that's a very stained glass, has an almost anime look to it. So you can, especially that one. So if you like anime, if you like this sort of stained glass, bright color, almost comic book style, if that's something you're interested in but you don't use physical reversals, don't let that stop you, because I have been using it without physically reversing them, and I find it to be quite interesting and helpful that way as well. So you really could do either way with this deck, and so don't let that stop you if these are something that you're interested in. So that's it, and I hope you all have an absolutely lovely day.